In the 1980s and the 1990s, two of some of the greatest movies of all time came out, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. In the first movie, we get sort of an action/thriller/horror/romance movie. And in the second movie, we get sort of a relationship bonding movie, disguised under action and thriller. It is constantly debated whether or not Terminator 1 is better than Terminator 2 and vice versa. Me personally, I prefer Terminator 2, but I can see why people would like the other movie better. Now, after those movies came out, we got terrible sequels. But then the trailer of Dark Fate came out, I laughed at it, but people thought this one was the one. This is the actual sequel to Terminator 2 because James Cameron is a producer of the movie. A lot of people had hoped that the original director of the movies is going to have a positive influence on Dark Fate. And what did we get? Alright, I called out this movie being shit since the trailer came out because it just looked horrible. Now granted, there have been good movies with bad trailers before, but come on, it's a Terminator sequel. I don't care if James Cameron is producing the movie, he's clearly burned out. He doesn't give a shit about the franchise, and why should he? Everything after 2 doesn't matter. This wasn't made to be a franchise, the plot is too simple. It's a good story, and it produces good characters, but you can't make 6 movies out of Terminator goes back in time to kill a guy who's gonna stand up to Skynet. I'm sorry, Legion. So this movie starts by kicking us in the balls by having John Connor get killed in the first 5 minutes of the movie. You see, the spoilers for Dark Fate were actually wrong because it said the first 10 minutes John Connor gets killed, but it's actually the 5. They're just upping the fucking ante. Now, we all know this decision is stupid, but what I find really funny about this is the fact that James Cameron A-okay'd this plot point. This is the same guy who criticized the director of Alien 3 because he killed off Newt and Bishop from Aliens in the beginning of Alien 3. But then again, that was in a time where he gave a shit about his movies. It's obvious he's looking for cash grabs now in old franchises. Alright, before I grab my PP and completely rape this movie, we're gonna go over some of the pros first. The Legion Terminator uses technology from today to their advantage. I like how they didn't forget that we live in such a technologically advanced world right now, so the Terminator is able to find the victim faster. Arnold's not putting on the sunglasses while the Terminator theme plays. You would think that having James Cameron, someone who's abandoning an old franchise and just having it as a cash grab, only put in a good old nostalgic moment for the T-800, but no, he actually shows character development. And finally, the ending action scenes were kind of enjoyable. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the action scenes are good, but at least it's entertaining to look at. Alright, time to completely shit on this movie. The CGI in this movie was abysmal. I'm gonna have to guess that the budget for the special effects for this movie went all into the beginning scene where John Connor dies, because they had to make the actors look younger. And yeah, the CGI in that scene looks good, but because of it, everything else suffers. T1 and T2 had a good balance of practical and special effects. This movie is mostly CGI and green screens. It just looks horrible and even cartoony at some points in the movie. Dark Fate also does this thing that I hate in the other Terminator sequels. They make the Terminator CGI for the majority of it. You guys remember the practical skeleton they used in Terminator 1? That was when the Terminator was the scariest, in my opinion. Just because this Terminator in Dark Fate is stronger doesn't necessarily mean it's scarier. And because the Terminator CGI for majority of the movie, it takes away the suspense of the scenes. Because we know he's not actually there. With a practical effect, it's in the scene. It may not be real, but we know it's in the scene. So, no point was I actually at the edge of my seat during the movie, because I was in the state of mind that this scene could be real in the moment. The characters. I don't give a shit about any of these characters in Dark Fate. Even Sarah Connor. And Sarah Connor is one of my favorite characters of all time, but I don't know. She's just so bland in this movie. She's only there to be fan service, I know that, but still. Her personality in this movie revolves around being snarky and surprised, and that's about it. The main character, I think her name is like fucking Pablo or something like that. I don't know. She's a blank slate cutting character, voided of any personality. Then there's the androgynous android who actually has the most personality out of anyone in this movie, which doesn't say much because she's also very boring. Pablo's brother is probably the most pointless character I've ever seen in any film ever. Well, there's Henry Bowers in it too, but it's a pretty close runner-up. Like, you could take these characters out of the film completely and nothing would change. And then there's Arnold. I don't know what he's doing there. I will say he does have a minor role in this movie, so he does have some sort of impact, but Yeah, he's there for fan service. Let's not kid ourselves. You know, the main cast just sucks. Like, that's all I'm gonna say. I don't care about any of them. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember who lived or died at the end of the movie. That's how bland and lifeless these characters really are. The story, it's the same shit over and over. It's literally the same plot. Everyone brings up how Terminator shouldn't be a franchise past 3, and I completely agree with them. It should be a trilogy, and that's about the extent the series can go. And because this franchise is being milked heavily, the pacing in the current movies are awful. You can tell the movie just wants to end as quickly as possible. There's nothing creative about this film. It's very standard, very mediocre. They just want to put their famous brand out there so people will buy it and deliver something that's half-assed. I don't remember one piece of dialogue. I don't remember anything memorable the characters did. It's just a soulless, voided piece of shit movie.